Hey guys, we're back from the Turtle Club with Angel and his Sin Xeno deck profile. I'm going to let him take it away because I don't know what any of the cards do.
All right, I'll just start with the leader since it's a big part of the engine for the drawing. It's a blocker to start off with, which is important to protect your Unison, but we'll get into that when we get into the deck. On attack, the way you draw is by pitching or discarding a Shadow Dragon card. If you discard one of the battle cards, they all have an effect that lets you check the top card of your deck, and if it's a Shadow Dragon card, that includes the extra cards. You get to add it to your hand. The extra cards don't have that effect, but we'll get into that again later. Another part of its effect, when you do discard the Shadow Dragons, at the end of the turn it untaps, so you get to utilize your blocker effect. It's got an alternate awaken condition. If you have 7 Shadow Dragons, it can be 4 of one and then 3 of another. It can be all different ones. The extra cards count. As long as you have 7 Shadow Dragons in the drop area, you can awaken, flip over, untap one, draw one. Otherwise, it's awaken at 4. On the awaken side, it's also a blocker. It is a 20k attack. When you attack, it gains 5k and draws a card, so you don't have to discard Shadow Dragons anymore. It's just a hard +1. In addition, the best part of the whole leader is Spirit Boost 1. You get to free activate one of your extra cards. That's once per turn, both players' turns, which is it's pretty nasty with the 2-cost cards that make the mill 2. But that's the leader. Awaken Sight also untaps at the end of the turn to be a blocker on opponent's turn. So here's a few of the 1-ofs in the deck. These are the not so great Shadow Dragons, but they're just in there as different names. You could bump this up, have the game slower. It's a good barrier blocker. It has the same 2 autos that pretty much most of these Shadow Dragons are going to have on play, and on discard you get to check the top card of your deck. It's a Shadow Dragon, add it to your hand, so you get to draw. That effect is what keeps you from running out of cards in hand. Otherwise, the deck has a very low hand. So most of your deck, if not all of it, needs to be these Shadow Dragons. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly whiffing. Even with 6 or 7 out of archetype cards in a 60-card deck, it's going to happen at least once or twice per game. So just heads up. This is a barrier blocker that also untaps at the end of the turn. So this is pretty nice. In future builds, I might bump this up. This card, probably the worst card in the deck. It's a crit swing, which is nice, but it's a hard pay 3 unless you cheat it out with a card that we'll go over later. Same effect as the other ones with the discard and the on play. Another interesting effect it does have though is on play you can play your Unison from the drop area with 1 marker in it. That is relevant sometimes. There's a lot of strange things that happen on the last turn in this deck, but we'll get into that again more later. This, same effects, it's also a blocker. This is almost never going to touch the board. Mostly what you use it for is the burst 1 effect that when you combo on defense, it untaps your leader. So you could block a swing at your Unison, combo this, burst 1, untap this, and then have another block for your Unison. So those are the so-so cards in the deck. This is a battle card negate. Costs 1 if you have 7 or more Shadow Dragons in the drop area. It does come in tapped, so that's not great, but it is a blocker, so it's relevant later on. Has the same effects as well, so if you negate for 1, you get to still scry and add another Shadow Dragon. So just a nice card. You could bump that up. 2's good, but 3 might be better. This is your damage dealer, board clearer. Same effects, like always. This one has unique though, so you're gonna have to combo it off or kill it to play another one. It's got an activate main where you pay 1, black, has to be black, and then send one of your onboard Shadow Dragons to the drop area. Comes into play, or well, it warps something first, and then it comes into play. And then it has that same effect to scry for the top. 30k beater, just a really, really nice card.
So when you say that this is a card that does damage in the deck, how often are you trying to deal damage versus just simply go for the mill strategy?
The only time that you'd really be going for damage is against a deck that's hurting itself pretty badly. I mean, this deck doesn't have a lot of push, so this is really just to punish your opponent, is just to get rid of a card with its warping effect and then run over something else. Run over Unisons, or later on if you're playing, there's a -7 effect on the Unison that plays 7 guys from your drop area. You're going to probably want to play the triple striker over this, but if the other one's been warped or you haven't seen it, It's another 30k body, so, but pretty much never.
Okay.
It's just to run stuff over. This guy, it's only at 2. You could run a build where you use more of these in the 3 cost, but relying on your battle cards isn't too great. The battle cards are kind of lackluster. It's more, you want to mill them out. This is a mill deck. This does have the effect on play, same thing, scry, but it also has an effect where you can pay 1 black, switch it to rest mode, and play a 3-cost Shadow Dragon from your hand without paying its energy cost. So you can cheat out all the other 3 costs. There's a deflect Naturon that's a nice pick for that, and another. It's all right. It does something. It's an alternate way to play the deck. It's something. This guy's the superstar boss monster. Barrier, deflect, double strike, blocker, activate, same effects as all the other ones, so you get to scry when it gets played and when it gets discarded. Activate main, activate battle, spirit boost 1, restand the card, mill your opponent, and that's both turns. So you swing on your own turn, basically you have a dual attacker. So if you want to clear Unisons, or if you play this from your drop area with the -7, this is a very good kill card as well. Swing, mill 1, untap, have a blocker for their turn, block on their turn, spirit boost, untap, they mill another one. You've got a dual blocker, dual attacker. It's very, very good as the game goes long. Against very fast decks, this is never going to come out. You're never going to want to tap 4, but game's slower now. Now, if you're playing against something and they get nice and low in the 3 life area, this is your kill card. This is an alternate win condition aside from the -7, the mill. This is just, you pay 2, you warp, I believe 3? Or is it 2? 7. Okay, you have to have 3 or more energy. That's what it is. 3 or more energy, pay 2 black, warp 7 from your drop area. This comes out, it scries, big triple strike, 30k. It's nice to play from drop. It's nice to play from hand. If you're still trying to stay ahead in front of a Unison deck, you can just run over a Unison real quick. It's pretty good. This card it seems good on paper, but it really, the only time I ever use this is to get to my 7th Shadow Dragon in the drop area by bursting one. It just cycles. It's like that 14-15 for Gamma. This is kind of a prototype for that. It is a 20k crit, which is nice if you've got your haze out. This is probably the best target for it, other than the barrier blocker. So these 2 are like the best guys to play out with that haze, since they can actually do something on board. But its effect is, activate main, you send it to the warp from your hand, burst 1, look top 5 for a 5 cost or less, Shadow Dragon battle card, so it can't add extra cards. So you could whiff, since there is a pretty even split. Sometimes they clump together. This guy's, he was better when the first wave of Xeno cards came out. When the second wave came out, kind of cut him, but he's a double striker. When you spirit boost, you get to play him for 1. He scries, and then I believe he mills them 1 too. So, yeah. It's pretty good. That's another way to deal some damage. But I don't know, when I was playing the deck, it didn't really come up too often. It is a good card though. 1 cost 20k, double striker. Nice card. This is also an excellent target out of Xeno Syn Shenron, which is a card that plays 3 costs or less. This has deflect, it's a blocker, and it's removal. It'll just put an opponent's battle card underneath itself. It gets
Any battle card?
I believe it's any battle card. It's not 4 or less, right? 5 or less.
5 or less.
5 or less, okay. So 5 or less, and then it gets one of their keywords for the turn. So if they take a double strike or take an Ape Turles or something, you get to swing double strike, dual attack. It's pretty nice. This card is the same as the Rage Shenron from before, except for battle cards. So I like this. This is a lot better than this, even though you'd think restanding your leader to block would be more relevant. This untapping any blocker. This untapping any 1 cost that you rested for any particular reason, and then getting an extra 5k combo power. It's like a 10k combo in 1 card. It comes up a lot. This is a very nice card. This has the leader spirit boost effect on it. It's a good 1 cost that you can add back to your hand with power burst if you choose to run it. And it's got the same basic scry effects. This is just a good card for cycling or for going for game if you're going to mill them out. You play this and then you get the spirit boost 2 times in 1 turn as opposed to 1. So you could mill them 4 for no energy if you have 2 of the 2 cost extra cards. Obviously, this card's dumb in other decks. Obviously, in the deck that it's supposed to go in, it's even dumber because it draws you 2. Since you're discarding from a Shadow Dragon effect, if you discard a battle card, the battle card gets its effect to scry from the top, and this gets its effect when it gets played. So you get to add 2 if you hit 2 off the top of your deck. Obviously, milling 4 is dumb in a mill deck, so this shuts down the whole turn. You'd probably run 4 of these. I thought I had 4. Turns out I have 3. I'll buy one soon, I promise. All right. This is one of the only 4 of battle cards in the deck. This lets you add any extra card that you want that's a Shadow Dragon from your drop back to your hand. And then it has the same effect of when it's discarded, you get to scry 1. So this is just really good for recycling your... Whatever extra card in your deck works the best against whatever deck you're playing against. So we'll get into those and then I'll explain a little bit more about that, I think. Super combo. It's those weird gimmicky Spirit Boost ones, but it's a Sparking 5, which is perfect for the deck since you don't really want to go down to 4 before you start using super combos. And it's a Shadow Dragon, so you can get to add it off of any of those effects. Explains
All right,
itself.
so this looks like the last of the battle cards
That's
for
all
now.
the battle cards, yeah.
So there's one that's missing that I'm curious about. It was popular in Soul Striker around the time of Nationals. It's a 3-drop. It has crit, and on swing it warps one of their battle cards.
Yes, the other haze, the other
Yeah,
haze.
and that's-
That only came out because it was not working at all in whatever format I was playing. I haven't played this in a while. This build is a little old. So for soon I'm going to update it with the new Tournament Pack Black Smoke card. But that card was relevant in slower matchups. So like
Okay.
1 for 1 getting rid of something. It also untaps at the end of the turn as a blocker. So that is a nice card. I think it's in a sideboard somewhere, but
Okay, yeah, it's probably not great, I guess, if
not
it's a 15K against
exactly,
Yamcha.
it's a 15K into Yamchas, it's a 15K into, yeah, pretty much just red. It's a 3 cost into all the other counterplays. Just really easily dealt with, and it's not really part of your game plan at all to just, the removal's the best part, but it's hard to get it to stick. So, most important thing to keep alive. If this can get dealt with, you're going to be behind the whole time. This is what lets you Spirit Boost. It gains markers +1 a turn. You get to draw 1 and then bottom deck 1, so you go neutral. You get to correct your hand a little bit. Another effect that's very good is if the game's going long and you're about to mill yourself out, you can start putting up to 3 extra cards from your drop area on the bottom of your deck on that +1 as well. The -7. Now, most people aren't going to let you get all the way up to 7 markers to -7 from just plussing, so really that's only going to happen if you turn 7, pay 7, slap this down, and play all your guys out. But as I was saying, it gains markers if you activate your leader's blocker skill, so if your opponent doesn't know what they're playing against and they're swinging early on against your Unison, you can gain a marker just by blocking, taking a life, and then this thing's at 3 markers turn 2. It's pretty nice. Turn 4, 4 markers immediately because you +1 after that. And yeah, that's pretty much that. This thing is, it's pretty good. It's a 10K 2 for 1. That could potentially come up. Runs over little fellas if you wanted to.
And one of the cards in the deck that does not have the...
This is the card that you're going to be really upset to see off the the top deck. So if you scry, doesn't have the Shadow Dragon trait. So you look at this and you put it at the bottom of your deck, especially if you're looking for it early on, and that's the card you top deck and throw to the bottom of your deck. It just feels bad because then you'll never really see it. All right, this card wins games. This is the best, probably the best card in the deck. Limit 1, they all have limit 1 on their activate main, activate battle. So the activate battle is just so you can do it on your opponent's turn. This one looks top 7 for an extra card, or for this, if you choose this, it plays it in your Unison area with a marker on it. Now every extra card also has the additional effect, well, it's actually the leader's effect. Whenever you activate a Shadow Dragon extra card, your opponent mills the top card of their deck. On the Unawakened side, you mill 1 as well, so you can get to your 7 Shadow Dragons faster. Then once you awaken, only your opponent does. So what this does later on, or early on obviously, is just cycle and setup. But later on in the game, this gets dumb when they're at their last few cards. Activate battle, look top 7, add another 1, activate battle on that one, mill them 2. Or, funny thing that could happen, if you're low on energy, you play this, hit this off the top 7, Spirit Boost, mill them 2 more with the 2 cost. This is the best card in the deck. For sure. This doesn't come up a lot, but it is very powerful. It's basically, what's that black Massaian card? I mean, the Massaian card that crits you.
Brainwash.
Brainwash no more. This is Brainwash no more for the deck, except they mill 2, because this makes the mill 1 on by itself, and then the leader makes the mill 1. Cost 2, but you're going to Spirit Boost to use this. Crit 1 of your life, you don't take damage for the battle. Good against triple strikers, stuff like that. Self-explanatory. This one is on par with this, but not as relevant, since this one adds battle cards and only looks top 5. It has the additional effect of discarding another Shadow Dragon battle card, or no, well, any Shadow Dragon card, and giving your leader a 1k boost for the turn. So it's like a little bean effect, but that's not as good into all these new 16ks, so it's just, it comes up, but it doesn't often. It's an answer for those 15k spam decks pretty much only. But it does add whatever battle card you want. It's more cycle, it's more mill. This card, you sideboard 2 of them, mainboard 2 of them. This is good against bombs. It just activate battle, activate main. Choose an opponent's battle card that's a higher energy cost than whatever energy they have. Send it to the warp until the end of the turn when it gets played with the skills negated. If they have 15 cards in deck or less, it doesn't come back. So late game, it just gets rid of a card, period. And that's mid-combat as well, so they're swinging triple strike, or U7 swinging their big fella at you. You just put that down, and then you don't take the damage, and they lose their card for the turn, or forever if they're low in deck. So relevant, it's matchup relevant, like I said. You always look for whatever card you need in your matchup, and then recycle it with Nature on over and over, which you can then recycle with Power Brush because it's at 1 cost. This card didn't seem that great for a time, but in deck it's always been amazing. Just warps one of your opponent's battle cards based on however many they have in drop, and since you're milling them, it's going to be a high cost pretty early on. They choose, however, so this is really better against tempo decks. Decks that go wide, they're just going to choose whatever's not swinging, because that's the activate battle, activate main. It has the additional counterplay effect that most people are familiar with for Unisons, where for every 2 that they have in their drop area, they have to remove a marker, or they can't swing for the turn. So, good utility card, good removal. If your opponent's got the kind of deck that only plays 1 card a turn, it just immediately gets rid of it. So, it's very, very nice. Excellent card. This is what you need for your aggro matchups. This is your Flying Nimbus or Forbidden Power. You discard 2 Shadow Dragons to activate its skill. So, if you're not discarding the battle cards, it's a pretty hard neg. But if you are, then it's just a -1 from the activate the extra card, since you scry 2 from the battle cards. But this also mills them too, all the 2-cost ones do. So it's pretty good for when you're pushing at the end for that final mill and to keep yourself alive. And this can be recycled with the Unison and with Nature on. Obviously, this is for every other black deck that runs Unisons. Most people will be familiar with the counter attack. It doesn't negate the attack, but you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards with 15k power or less, ignoring barrier, and send it to their warp. So this is a free mills in the deck once your Unison is up. So every turn you can just, whenever they swing, just throw it down, get a free mill, add it back with Nature on. It's also got an activate battle. It's a 15k combo once per turn. Just really gross in this deck. It's like, yeah, just has to be a 4 of. Very good card. Last stuff, 2 power bursts. You'd think you'd want to run more, but you can't afford to whiff on that scry effect. So this is only to add back Nature on, really. Sometimes you can add back the Sin that has the leader effect on it, but you want to see this early so that you never scry it, and then just hold on for negating a big bomb's attack. And obviously Power Burst is one of the better Spartan negates. Secret Rare, right now it's this. It's the only searchable one. It's good. I mean, it's a good generic Secret Rare. Just deck goes late too, so you can tap down your opponent's whole board. This is another way you could win with actual damage, since it's a 40k dual attack double strike. That almost never comes up though. But in the future, I might switch to Black Smoke with the new TP. Seems very nice. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it has to be it. That felt like forever.
Yeah, a lot of cards, a lot of explaining.
60 cards, and there's cards that you could put in here that are matchup relevant that aren't even included right now. There's the Earthquake card that removes either a marker or they warp a card and you draw two. There's a lot of utility in the deck, and you can mess with the ratios, but this is what I've liked so far. Things change with the meta, obviously, but it's just a really flexible deck in terms of responding to your opponent. Your win cons aren't flexible, obviously, but it feels nice.
And real quick, just matchups you're excited to see and matchups that you do not want to see.
So you would think you want to see blue, but 17 you automatically lose. You have no answer for it. So that's the end of that. Your whole hand goes to your deck, and then you get smoked. But red is tough. Just the free board clear with their power neg, and then anything that goes wide is tough. Anything mid range you like to see. Anything that draws a lot you like to see. Because whatever they put out, you're going to answer, and they just drew like 4 cards because their deck is busted most of the time, but this time they're going to pay the price for that. So you just answer everything that comes on the board. It's not super boring either, where you just negate everything. It's actual tricks mid-combat, so you can punish your opponent for overcommitting or for doing less. There's always a way to do. It's a deck to torture your opponent with, basically. It's just that's what I prefer.
And they probably don't know what any of the extra cards
Yeah,
do.
you could also just lie. So they're not going to read it. Look at that shit. That's absurd. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Angel. We
No
will
problem.
check back in the future.